Welcome back, everyone. Today's video, we are going to be tackling a personal favorite of mine, the classic 1984 movie, 2010, The Year We Make Contact. It's actually the sequel to the far better known 2001, A Space Odyssey. But yeah, I know this is blasphemous to say, but I actually prefer this movie to the original. It's a lot more straightforward. It's not psychedelic. 2001 was Stanley Kubrick, and very much an art house film and a product of its time. So nothing wrong with it. I love it. I just tend to prefer this one a little bit more. But in the movie, there's a fantastic scene near the end, and keep in mind this movie's 40 years old, so I don't feel like I'm really spoiling anything vital. But there's a scene at the end of the movie where the monoliths, these mysterious, uh, uh, I don't know, domino-shaped structures, I forget what they're called. Um, Anyways, the monoliths actually turn Jupiter into a small star. Now, we're going to cover a little bit of that in Universe Sandbox, and at the end of this video, I am going to, if you care to know, I'm going to catch people up on the two sequels that 2010 had. They were never made into movies, but some of you might be interested in how the story concluded. So I'm going to cover that at the end of the video. Right now, I'm just cleaning up Jupiter because there's, what, 100 moons? So I only want to deal with the core four, the major moons of Jupiter. All the others leaving orbital paths and trails is very distracting. So, um, okay, so we got Jupiter and we've got the four major moons. We got Io, Europa, Callisto, Ganymede. So you'll notice that the mass is one Jupiter, obviously. Now, to be a star, you have to have right around 80 times the mass of Jupiter. So how the monolith could have done this is, of course, a bit of a mystery. The monolith, those domino-shaped black things that you see in both 2001 and 2010, are actually tools of a very, very advanced alien race. They're powerful computers with vast powers at their disposal. I mean, obviously, if you can turn a tiny world into a star. So, if we do it the actual traditional way, and we raise Jupiter's mass up, you'll notice that the orbits of its moons, pull in and become more elliptical. Obviously, as Jupiter's mass increases, it's going to pretty much suck up everything in the area. Right now, at 2.5 times Jupiter's mass, it's more massive than, of course, anything in the solar system. It's already more massive than anything in the solar system. It's about 2.5 times the mass of everything else put together, including Saturn, which is fairly close to its size, but Saturn is nowhere near as dense, as massive as Jupiter. So, yeah, we're now at 10 Jupiter masses. This might take too long. I might have to speed this up. But you see, it's not actually growing that much larger in size, even though we're 62 times Jupiter's mass here. But right around 80, you see there? I think it was like 78, 79, somewhere in there. It became a star. Now, what kind of effect would that have on the solar system? We're going to cover that as well. Let me fix the color. It should be much redder because it's a red dwarf. Red dwarfs are the most common stars in the universe. They make up about 70% of all stars. The temperature is way too high. Such a small star would be about 2000 Kelvin or 1727 Celsius, 3140 Fahrenheit. So very cool. I mean, extremely hot, of course, but very cool compared to our sun. And you can see the luminosity is minuscule. Now, this habitable zone is, I'm going to have to go forward in time. It's still set to when the temperature was 3,000 degrees. So hang on. Let me fix that. It's wanting to climb. There we go. That's a more accurate habitable zone for Jupiter. Anyways, yeah, in the movie and the books, Jupiter becomes a star called Lucifer. So I'll change the name in just a minute. Obviously, with 80 times the mass, that's just going to suck in all the major moons: Callisto, Io, Europa, Ganymede. Callisto being the furthest one out is the last moon standing. But yeah, we're gonna see if Lucifer, Jupiter, Lucifer, have any effect on the solar system. Could Jupiter's mass be increased so drastically, and what effect would that have on the solar system? You know, the answer might surprise you. So notice the size difference, though. That's amazing. The size difference between the two habitable zones is insane. So anyways, let's go forward in time, see what effect this small star has on our solar system. Yeah, I highly recommend 2010, though it kind of answers the questions of what happened in 2001. They go back to the Jovian system. Looks like Saturn's being pulled in. They go back to the Jovian system and, of course, try to solve the mystery of why the HAL 9000 computer killed all the crew. Remember, it sent Frank Poole. It killed all the astronauts in hibernation on the Discovery spacecraft, and then it I don't know what it did to. I think one of the pods used its robotic arms to cut Frank Poole's air hose on his spacesuit. Looked like he was having a hard time breathing. It's been so many years since I watched 2001. But I don't think it directly shows it. It just like implies it. Shows him like tumbling away from the spacecraft, and then it like literally takes like 15 minutes movie time for Dave Bowman, the main character, to get out there and retrieve his body. Of course, he's long dead by then, and then he has to discard his body, which will be important later in the video, to get back into the spacecraft. So he leaves his body out there in space. So, yeah, I'm fast forwarding time to see if like Jupiter is going to drastically alter Saturn. It doesn't really look like. It looks like Saturn moved in a little bit closer, but then Jupiter kind of stabilized its orbit. So it would probably pull in the outer planets slightly, but apparently nothing drastic. The inner planets, you know, the terrestrial worlds, seem to be relatively unscathed. I can't see any difference, at least. Oh, and yeah, Jupiter would have, it would be a, what do they call that? A flare star. Is it a flare star? But red dwarfs are extremely violent for their small size. They have a lot of, young ones are at least. Older ones, I believe, are much more stable, but a freshly made red dwarf would have a lot of violent flares. So I went ahead and took the liberty of recreating a finished Jovian system with Jupiter changed to Lucifer. All the moons in stable orbits. Now, you know, you look at the habitable zone, right? Callisto, all of them are inside the red zone. Callisto comes the closest to being in the habitable zone. It's about, and all of these would be ocean worlds except Io. Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto are all about 45% water ice, so there would be no solid surface. There would just be ocean, hundreds of miles and kilometers deep, several hundred, far deeper than anything Earth has. So no chance for a solid surface, except there might be, polar caps. That might be where you could land on Callisto. I've got the air pressure at about 40% Earth sea level, which, as I've explained in other videos, we don't need a full bar of air pressure on terraformed worlds because we can increase the oxygen percentage, just like mountain climbers do. And the lower gravity is actually going to be very beneficial to the human body. We don't consume nearly as much oxygen in lower gravity. A little fun fact there. Europa should be underwater. It's just Universe SANDBOX's. Excuse me, I'm trying to fight some hiccups. Universe SANDBOX texture is unchanging when it comes to Europa. Io doesn't really have any ice, so its temperature is obviously not correct. It takes time for heat and light to propagate through space. This is like literally after I just finished creating it, so I'm going to have to advance the time to change the temperature. But yeah, Europa would be about 100 Celsius. Way too hot. That's for my fellow Americans, that's the boiling temperature of water. So roughly 212 Fahrenheit, I believe. Yeah, Io has a nice dull red glow to it. So, but yeah, how could we do something like this? At first, your first thought is going to be, no, this is impossible because there's just not enough material in the solar system to make Jupiter a star. But there is. You just got to think outside the box. The sun has over 1,000 times Jupiter's mass. So, could it spare 79 Jupiter's worth of material? Absolutely. And there's actually ways to possibly get that material off the sun. It's called star lifting. Basically, where you focus a lot of energy on the surface of the sun, and then you use in theory, of course, I don't mean to make it sound simple, but there's at least a theoretical way of lifting material from the sun. And it looks like Callisto's having a hard time. Io, by the way, is breaking up because of the increased gravity of Jupiter. Now Lucifer is ripping it to shreds. It's not falling apart because of the heat, although that's not helping matters any. I'm trying to see if Callisto's losing material. Got a decent chance for life, 15%. That's fairly decent. There's one of these categories shows you how much material a world is losing. Sorry, bear with me. Yeah, so could we do something like that? Absolutely. We could actually, if assuming it's possible, which it should be, to transfer material from the sun to Jupiter, we would have to obviously move the moons out, or we would lose those. The increased gravity of Jupiter is just going to suck those right in. I don't seem to find it. I know it's at the bottom of one of these. Anyways, but yeah, and the fun thing is, believe it or not, I know this sounds totally unbelievable, but it would actually extend the life of our sun if, oh, there it is, okay. It would actually extend the life of our sun if we did so, because contrary to logic, smaller stars like red dwarfs last trillions of years, with a T, trillions, not billions. So, and that's because they're able to convect, to transfer material from their core to the surface, there's total convection and smaller red dwarfs, whereas the heavier elements build up in a star like our sun. And it's actually that buildup of those heavier elements that causes the sun to enter a red giant phase and to actually die. Fun fact, when the sun dies, when it becomes a white dwarf, it will still have had half of its hydrogen available. So, if you want to show off your brains, I love the spiral effect of the material coming off Io. That's rather beautiful, honestly. But yeah, if you want to show off to your friends, brag, let them know that when the sun dies, it's not going to die because of running out of fuel. And I've seen very, very smart men say, oh, the sun's going to run out of fuel in 5 billion years. Okay, so I promised this at the end of the video. We're going to talk a little bit about the sequels. The first one to 2010 is called 2061. Both of these by Arthur C. Clarke, the late, great Arthur C. Clarke, by the way. In 2061, it's kind of an underwhelming sequel. Basically, a spaceship crash lands on Europa. 2061 is, of course, when Comet Halley is returning. But a very old Heywood Floyd has an adventure on Europa, discovers that Dave Bowman and Hal have become a joint consciousness, and the spaceship that crash landed on Europa is rescued. The crew's rescued. Okay, and then of course in the final Odyssey 3001, a final Odyssey, it takes place obviously 1,000 years after the first movie, and the events of 2010 figure in directly with this. If you remember, for those of you who have seen 2010, the United States and Soviet Union were on the verge of a full-out nuclear exchange. So that information was transmitted to the control monolith, basically about 500 light years away, and the response has been 500 years in the making. So because of the speed of light. So apparently the monolith, as powerful as they are, they cannot exceed the speed of light, but they retaliate against humans. They decide to kill off humans because we're so dangerous, and they don't want Europans hurt. So, but basically the controllers of the monoliths are thwarted by humans using Howman, which is Dave Bowman and Hal fused, to introduce a computer virus to the monolith. So yeah, don't forget to like if you liked it, and like I said, thank you so much for watching. Bye.